Law enforcement officials around the world on high alert tonight, trying to piece together exactly what forced that EgyptAir Flight 804 from Paris to Cairo to vanish from radar. Egyptian officials fear terrorism is more likely than mechanical failure as new details emerge. ABC's Alex Marquardt is in Paris for us.
Tonight, international search teams scouring the surface of the Mediterranean Sea, looking for any sign of EgyptAir Flight 804, which disappeared last night. It's this exact plane, seen here 9 months ago, that fell out of the sky with no distress call. Egyptian officials admitted the most likely cause of the crash is terrorism.
The possibility of having a different action or having a terror attack is higher than the possibility of having a technical leak.
Hours after the jet disappeared, relatives gathered at the main airports in Paris and Cairo, learning the grim news that no one survived. EgyptAir Flight 804 left Charles de Gaulle Airport at 11:09 p.m. local time with 66 people on board, 56 passengers and 10 crew members. The flight to Cairo was supposed to be just over 4 hours. Almost 3.5 hours into the flight, the plane was cruising at 37,000 feet, usually the safest part of the flight. The pilot checked in with Greek air traffic control at 2:26 a.m. Nothing reportedly seemed out of the ordinary. Then, just a few minutes later, the plane disappeared from the radar. The Greek defense minister says his country's radar showed the plane erratically turning left, then making a full circle to the right, suggesting the jet may have been losing altitude. Despite the international search efforts, so far no debris has been found. The final coordinates of the plane suggest it could have crashed in some of the deepest water in the Mediterranean.
The biggest problem we're going to have here is water depth, and that becomes very difficult for recovery.
Before Paris, the downed aircraft had flown to tumultuous parts of the world, making round trips to Eritrea and Tunisia before that final Paris to Cairo flight.
It's an issue that needs to be looked into is where has this airplane been recently, within the last several days. Looking everywhere it's been, everyone who's had a chance to touch it.
Security officials say few airports in the world have better security than Charles de Gaulle in Paris. But tonight, investigators are screening surveillance video there, fearful of a massive failure, either in screening baggage or screening airport employees who may have allowed a bomb to be hidden on the EgyptAir jet. After last year's attacks in Paris, security was beefed up here at France's airports, and concerns grew over the tens of thousands of workers. More than 70 of the so-called red badges that give access to secure areas were either revoked or not renewed over fears of radicalization.
Security officials, they're increasingly concerned about individuals who have been radicalized to the point of violence, who have joined these terrorist organizations, who are actually working in the airport themselves, and because of their credentials are able to take items onto an airplane without ever having to go through security.
This is what investigators suspect happened to Metrojet Flight 9268. Last October, the Russian charter flight crashed after taking off from Egypt's resort town of Sharm el-Sheikh. All 224 people on board were killed.
In the past, we never would have suspected that somebody would be complicit in putting a bomb in the cargo hold of an airplane. With the Metrojet in Egypt, we think that's what happened.
An ISIS-linked group claimed responsibility, and investigators say that a ramp worker in Sharm el-Sheikh may have been recruited by the group to plant a bomb on the Russian jet. U.S. authorities telling ABC News that electronic intercepts of ISIS, both before and after the crash, indicated that ISIS was in communication with someone at the airport.
If you're a terrorist organization and you have an individual who works at the airport, has airport credentials, and can place items on an airplane, you have, in a sense, a master key as far as being able to open doors and get explosives on airplanes.
ISIS later released this photo of a soda can bomb that they say blew up the plane, claiming they smuggled it on board, placing it near the rear luggage hold. Bomb experts say even a small bomb like this could produce a blast much more powerful than the one in this government test. Both ISIS and al-Qaeda have long targeted airplanes and airports. Aviation security officials have also been warning of possible bombs hidden in laptop computers.
The way these X-ray machines work is they look for materials that look out of place inside of an item. So if you can mold the explosive so that it just looks like another part of the laptop, it's very difficult for a screener who's only using X-ray to detect that explosive material.
In February, a bomb exploded inside a Somali passenger jet, blowing a hole in the side of this plane. Amazingly, it was able to land safely. Traces of explosives were found on the plane, and authorities believe the bomb was rigged inside a laptop. This surveillance video allegedly shows 2 men handing off a laptop to the 3rd man before the flight. The suspected bomber, believed to be linked to the Al-Shabaab terror group, is thought to have been killed, sucked out of the plane after the explosion.
One good thing is that the average terrorist does not know exactly where to place the explosive on an airplane, because sometimes we see they'll blow up in the cabin, nothing will happen. Sometimes they'll blow up somewhere else and the airplane will come down.
Fears of international terrorism, on top of endless security lines at home, have made for a tense start to the summer travel season, as my colleague Mary Bruce reports.
You're here 3 hours before your flight, just in case.
Yeah. One on the right, one on the left, please.
The TSA is under fire for waits up to 3 hours, caused by a staffing shortage.
I've been watching the news, and they said it's been about a 2.5, maybe close to about a 3-hour wait. So I just decided to plan ahead and be sure I make my flight.
But today, passengers are more forgiving.
You know that you got to wait in line for a while.
Just try to not get frustrated, upset, know people are doing their jobs.
I mean, I'd much rather that they're careful and do the necessary checks than something happens.
And tonight, some individual airports like Los Angeles International are stepping up their police presence in response to EgyptAir. But the TSA says their screening is not changing. In Paris, EgyptAir is still operating their scheduled flights to Cairo.
It's almost business as usual here at Charles de Gaulle Airport tonight, except here at the check-in area for the EgyptAir flight to Cairo tonight. The few people who are traveling on this flight have to show their reservation before they go in, and you can see these curtains here have been drawn for privacy.
Meanwhile, the search continues in the Mediterranean, looking for any sign of that Airbus A320 and its 66 passengers. For Nightline, I'm Alex Marquardt in Paris.